would say the piece definitely provokes people to think a little bit outside of the box. Things aren't delivered to you in my work. For example, in this piece, there's very little performance, actually. I mean, that's what I wanted to really explore in Absent. The two key people in it, Maggie Morgan and the CEO of Northern Leisure Holdings, Sir Charles Dickinson, they are like opposing forces, opposing philosophies, but they never meet. But you see them constantly in the building as you walk through, in the architecture, in the things, in the atmospheres. There's a constant dialogue going on between them. And it's not a show where you're going to find lots of letters that will give you, for example, a former lover of Maggie Morgan writing a long letter all about something that will give you lots of narrative clues about her. That doesn't interest me. The soap opera of narrative in that sense is not something that is a part of my work. My work tries to operate at a slightly different level, where it's in the things, it's in the spaces, it's in the detail of the architecture that you then understand a little bit about the interplay between these two people. I suppose if you're sitting down in an audience and you're looking at the stage and you're looking at a set, and for example the set might be the facade of a house, and there's a scene between a couple of performers on the stage. I suppose what I'm interested in is actually inviting the audience up on the stage and say, look, let's go through the front door of that house, and rather than seeing all the, the French bracing and all the artifice that you've got to try and support that facade that the audience see in 2D when they're in the auditorium, you can enter into the front door, you enter into the corridor, it's a real corridor, there's a doorway in the corridor, you open the door and there's like a lounge and there's a sofa and maybe there's someone seated on the sofa, or maybe there isn't anyone in that room because this project Absent is very much an installation piece. I think when I recreate or when I create a project anywhere, I like to live there for a period, so I relocate. I live in Brighton, but whenever I'm creating a project, I relocate. And I think that's really important, partly because my work has to absorb the local environment. My work is never just, I never like to just take over a building and do a big design job on it. It has to be about the environment that is beyond the walls of that building. And that environment, that local environment, also has to be a mirror to a much wider national and international environment. And to try and get those connections, you really need to live in that place. You also need to work with lots of people who live in that place. So I normally bring a core crew of people with me. There's a core group who I worked with before, who I trust and who I work well with. And then I like to augment that with a large number of local skilled people. Skilled technicians, artists, model makers. That's really important. We've been working out of a local workshop for the past month and a half, and then we're going to transplant everything as much as we can to the building. But at the same time, because there is so much of what I'm doing is about responding to the building as it is, you can't really transplant everything. You have to really plant everything from scratch when you're in there. So it's going to be a hugely busy 2 weeks. I mean, obviously I've spent a lot of time in the building already. My team have already spent a lot of time in the building planning. But the actual setting up of the show and the rehearsing of the piece and the filming that needs to go alongside it, that's all going to be telescoped into a 2-week period, which is going to be non-stop. I think the thing about the Winter Gardens itself is it's a kind of unusual building because it's so grand, it's so, I mean, I've never come across a building like it. It's huge, it's got an incredible range of vast spaces within it. Just the interior space is massive. I mean, the ceilings are incredibly high. There's a huge amount of space that is what you would call in modern terminology unexploited space. So it's not a building that's been built to be economically viable. It's a building that has been built from an aesthetic principle to be an extremely interesting and wonderful place for people to come. And you very rarely build buildings like that now.